My sister laughed and said, "You'll never be as smart as me." Dad nodded and said, "She's right." I just smiled, took the job offer, and at night they all called me crying. Update 1. It was the way she laughed that did it. Not the words though sharp enough but the laugh. That smug high-pitched trill of victory she always used when she knew she'd won. "You'll never be as smart as me," Lisa said, slicing into her steak like she was dissecting a frog in one of her old AP bio classes. And of course right on cue, Dad nodded beside her. "She's right," he added, not even looking up from his glass. "Always has been." I didn't say a word, didn't flinch, didn't let them see the way that sentence buried itself under my skin like a splinter. Instead I smiled, just a little. Not because it was funny but because it was finally time. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that while they'd spent years mocking me for being average, I'd been busy quietly, steadily, stubbornly building something they couldn't see, something they couldn't laugh away. They didn't know I'd spent the past 4 years pulling 18-hour days, teaching myself every inch of machine learning, architecture, design, thinking, systems, logic. They didn't know I'd coded half the back end of a tool that a Fortune 100 company just offered to acquire. And with it, me, 7 figures, a global relocation package, equity, and most importantly, freedom. That night, while they popped champagne over Lisa's promotion to a department head at something tank, my phone buzzed with the offer. I stood up from that dinner table with a plate half full and a heart completely calm. I didn't say a thing, just smiled as I pocketed my phone, leaned back, and listened to their little chorus of self-congratulation. Lisa was still basking in it all when she said, "Honestly Rob, I'm just glad you're content. Some people are just meant to support the real stars." Dad chuckled. Mom nodded, oblivious. I poured myself a bit more wine and made a mental note. This was going to be the last dinner I ever attended in that house, because what none of them knew, what none of them could know was that before the night was over, each one of them would be calling me crying, begging, and I'd be on a plane before the sun came up. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it started. Let me take you back to the first crack in the perfect family facade. The moment I realized just how fragile their whole golden child illusion really was. You see, it wasn't a blowout fight. It wasn't some Hollywood betrayal. No, it was smaller than that. Duller. More insidious. And it happened over soup 6 years ago on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. It was clam chowder. That was the soup. I remember because Lisa complained it was too salty, and Mom immediately apologized like Lisa had been personally attacked by the ocean. I was home from college, a state school, nothing fancy, which Lisa made sure to remind me of every time I visited. "You know Stanford's workload is just insane. I barely sleep," she said between sips of her filtered water. "But I guess community colleges are a little easier, huh?" "It's a state university," I muttered. "Right," she said with that patented smirk. Same thing. I didn't bother arguing. I was used to being the punchline. Every dinner, every holiday, every awkward reunion, they played their roles perfectly. Lisa, the genius. Dad, her echo chamber. Mom, the quiet referee who only ever stepped in when I got too quiet, too visibly wounded. Then I'd get a lecture about keeping the peace, about how Lisa didn't mean to be cruel. But that rainy Tuesday something shifted. I noticed Dad checking his phone a lot, nervous glances, brow furrowed. Lisa was distracted too, more than usual. She was picking at her nails, barely eating. Later after they'd gone into the living room to talk shop, meaning talk about Lisa's research, Lisa's lab, Lisa's future, I heard snippets, something about grants, about Lisa's fiancé, about that thing with the foundation. None of it made sense at the time, but I remembered every word, and then